They say curiosity killed the cat, but in my neighborhood, it nearly killed Karen's reputation. Imagine waking up before sunrise, peeking out your window and catching your HOA president in a bathrobe, stealing letters straight out of your mailbox. That's the exact nightmare I found myself in, and it spiraled into a federal sting operation that left her in handcuffs. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. It all started at 5:30 a.m. I had been noticing strange gaps in my mail for weeks. Utility bills arriving late, a birthday card from my sister never showing up. Even the IRS claimed a form had been delivered that I never saw. At first, I chalked it up to bad luck or a sloppy postal route, but the pattern was too sharp, too consistent, and I started to wonder if someone was deliberately tampering with my mailbox. So one morning, I brewed a mug of coffee, sat near the window, and waited. Sure enough, just as the sun was breaking the horizon, I spotted a shadow moving down my driveway. At first, I thought it was some random porch pirate, but then I saw it. Karen, my HOA president. Lavender bathrobe tied around her waist, slippers scraping softly against the concrete. She strutted right up to my mailbox like she owned it, yanked it open and flipped through my mail with practiced ease. I nearly spit out my coffee. Karen? The same woman who preached neighborhood integrity and handed out violation slips like Halloween candy, was stealing my mail. I wanted to storm outside and confront her, but instead I kept quiet. If she was bold enough to do it once, she'd do it again. And if she'd done it to me, who knew how many neighbors she had already targeted? The next day, I casually brought up the missing mail during our HOA meeting. Karen smiled, tilting her head just enough to make her pearl earrings swing. "Oh, you know how unreliable the post office can be," she said with a laugh, dismissing my concerns in front of everyone. But something in her tone told me she wasn't laughing at the post office. She was laughing at me. That's when I decided this wasn't just a neighborly squabble anymore. Tampering with mail is a federal crime under 18 U.S.C. 1708, carrying fines and prison time. If Karen thought she could keep treating the neighborhood like her personal kingdom, she was about to get a crash course in federal law enforcement. Once I realized what Karen was doing, I knew confronting her head-on would only end in a screaming match and more HOA nonsense. What I needed was proof, and not the kind Karen could wriggle out of with fake smiles and HOA bylaws. I needed federal muscle. So I called the United States Postal Inspection Service. Most people don't even know they exist, but they're the oldest federal law enforcement agency in the country, and they take mail theft dead serious. When I explained my situation, they didn't laugh it off. They asked detailed questions, took down my statement, and then one of the agents, Inspector Lopez, said, "Sir, if what you're describing is accurate, we're dealing with a violation of Title 18, Section 1708. That's punishable by up to 5 years in prison. If you're willing to cooperate, we can set up a controlled delivery." I agreed without hesitation. The plan was simple, but brilliant. They would prepare a piece of mail specifically designed as bait, an envelope with a small GPS tracker tucked inside. It looked exactly like an ordinary letter, but the second someone pulled it out of my mailbox, the inspectors would know. The next morning, I placed the decoy envelope in my mailbox like usual. Then I waited. My nerves were shot, hands gripping my coffee mug so tight I thought it might crack. Across the street, a nondescript sedan with tinted windows sat quietly. The inspectors inside, watching. Right on schedule, just after sunrise, I saw the lavender bathrobe again. Karen. She walked briskly, head held high like she was out for a morning stroll, except instead of waving at neighbors, she made a beeline for my mailbox. With no hesitation, she pulled it open, slipped the decoy letter into her robe pocket, and sauntered off as if nothing had happened. Not 30 seconds later, Inspector Lopez's radio crackled. "Tracker's moving. Subject heading northbound." I held my breath as the car pulled away, tailing her at a safe distance. Karen had no clue she just walked straight into a federal sting. She thought she was above the law, untouchable in her little HOA empire. But this time, she hadn't just stolen a neighbor's letter. She had stolen government property. And that meant the game was no longer mine to play. The feds were in control now. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. By the time Karen reached her house, the inspectors had already coordinated with local police. The GPS tracker showed her stepping inside with the stolen envelope. Lopez glanced at me and said calmly, "Once she opens it, that's federal evidence. Watch closely." I didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, the signal confirmed the envelope had been tampered with. That was it. The green light. I followed at a safe distance as the inspectors rolled up to Karen's driveway, lights flashing. Karen stepped out onto her porch, clutching the envelope like it was a winning lottery ticket. The smug look on her face didn't last. Lopez walked up, badge out, voice firm. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for theft of United States mail, a violation of 18 U.S.C. Pre 708. Please place your hands where I can see them." Karen's eyes went wide. "What? This is a mistake. I'm the HOA president. I have the authority." "Authority doesn't extend to stealing mail," Lopez cut her off. "Turn around." Neighbors started poking their heads out of doors as the scene unfolded. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. Karen, queen of the cul-de-sac, was being cuffed on her own porch in broad daylight. I'll never forget the look on her face when Lopez read her rights. It wasn't embarrassment. It was disbelief. For years, she'd gotten away with bullying, lying, and twisting HOA rules to suit herself. But this wasn't an HOA matter anymore. This was federal. The police transported her away while Lopez assured me charges would stick. And he was right. Within weeks, Karen was indicted on multiple counts of mail theft. The HOA board, desperate to distance themselves, voted her out unanimously. Suddenly, the woman who once strutted down the street in her robe like she owned it all was a cautionary tale. The neighbors whispered, some laughed, others shook their heads. But one thing was certain, nobody feared her anymore. As for me, I didn't even care about the stolen letters anymore. What I cared about was that justice, real justice, had finally arrived. Because when you mess with someone's mailbox, you're not just playing HOA games. You're messing with the federal government, and they don't play around.